Ryan and David were not trying to become a housing case study. They were just two renters on the same street in 2022, looking at the same three-bedroom house for $385,000. The rate that week was 5.8%. David bought the house. Ryan waited. His plan was simple. Wait 6 months, let rates fall, and buy when the numbers looked cleaner. 4 years later, that 6-month decision has turned into a 2026 problem. Rates did not fall the way people expected. Home prices did not politely freeze in place. And the refinance math, which sounds so easy in a real estate slogan, turned out to be much less forgiving. So today we are not asking, should everybody buy now? That is too lazy. We are asking a better question. What exactly has to be true for waiting to beat buying? Here is why Ryan and David are useful. They started from almost the same point. Same neighborhood, same income range, same house price, same 20% down payment available. The only real difference was timing. David bought in June 2022. The house was $385,000. He put down $77,000 and borrowed $308,000 at 5.8% on a 30-year fixed mortgage. Ryan kept renting. He did not spend his down payment. He kept the money in a high-yield savings account and waited for better conditions. That sounds reasonable. It was not reckless. In 2022, 5.8% felt expensive compared with the low-rate years people had just lived through. The phrase, "marry the house, date the rate," was everywhere. The pitch was simple. If rates are high, do not panic. Buy the right house and refinance later. Or wait until rates drop and buy then. The problem is that the pitch makes the decision sound like one variable. It is not. Waiting for mortgage rates to drop is really 3 bets stacked on top of each other. Bet 1. The house you want will not get meaningfully more expensive while you wait. Bet 2. Rates will drop enough, and soon enough, to matter. Bet 3. If you buy at a higher rate and plan to refinance, the refinance will actually pay for itself after closing costs. Most people only talk about the second bet. They stare at rates. They watch the Federal Reserve. They read forecasts. But the house price and refinance assumptions can hurt just as much, sometimes more. That is where Ryan's plan broke. Not because he was irrational, not because buying always wins. His plan broke because 2 of the 3 assumptions moved against him at the same time. The first assumption is the quiet one. Prices stay flat while you wait. When someone says, "I am waiting for rates to come down," what they are also saying is, "I believe the house I want will not rise enough to cancel the lower rate." That second sentence is usually left unsaid, but it is the more dangerous part. Use Ryan's house as the example. In 2022, it was $385,000. By the 2026 buying window, a reasonable national index style estimate puts the same home around $428,000. Your market may be higher or lower, but the lesson is the same. If the price moves up while you wait, the lower rate has more work to do. That $43,000 difference is not just a sticker price problem. It affects every line of the deal. A 20% down payment becomes larger. The loan becomes larger. Interest is charged on a larger balance. Insurance and taxes may also rise with the value. A rate drop of 0.5% can feel meaningful. On a $308,000 loan, it might save roughly $90 a month. That is real money. But a $43,000 price increase can swallow that saving for years. Because you are not saving interest on the old loan size. You are borrowing against a more expensive house. This is why price movement is often the dominant variable, not the loudest variable, the dominant one. For waiting to win cleanly, prices usually need to stay flat or fall during the waiting period. If they rise while rates stay stubborn, the wait gets expensive fast. Now to the assumption everybody does talk about: rates. Rates can fall. Nobody serious should claim otherwise. Mortgage rates have fallen sharply in some historical periods. They fell after major recessions. They fell during emergency policy environments. They can move faster than people expect. But there is a difference between being right about the direction and being right on a timeline that fits your life. Ryan thought he was waiting 6 months. Then it became 1 year. Then 2. Then maybe when the Federal Reserve cuts. Then maybe when forecasts improve. Now it is 2026. And the rate environment is still not the clean reset many buyers hoped for. Fannie Mae's June 2026 housing forecast has the 30-year fixed mortgage rate around 6.4% for the remaining 2026 quarters. and roughly 6.3 to 6.4% through 2027. Freddie Mac's weekly average in mid-June 2026 was still in the mid-6% range. That does not mean rates can never fall. It means the weight has a carrying cost. For renters, that cost is rent. For families, it may also be school timing, moving stress, commute time, and lost stability. And for the math to work, the rate drop has to be big enough. 0.25% is not usually a life-changing refinance. 0.5% may or may not work. A full percent drop is where the conversation often becomes serious, but even then, the closing costs matter. This is the part most people skip when they say, just refinance later. A refinance is not a button you press for free. It has closing costs. A typical refinance can cost a few percent of the new loan amount. Some borrowers pay those costs up front. Some roll them into the new loan, which feels painless because no check is written, but the cost is still there. The refinance test is simple. Take the closing cost, divide it by the monthly savings. That gives you the break-even point. Imagine a borrower with a $328,000 loan at 6.84%. If they refinance to 6.52%, their payment might drop from about $2,147 to about $2,077. That is about $70 a month of savings. Now assume refinance costs of $8,200. Divide $8,200 by 70. The break-even is about 118 months, almost 10 years. If that homeowner sells, moves, refinances again, or pays off the loan before the 10-year mark, the refinance did not really win. It only looked like a lower payment. That is the trap in the slogan. Date the rate assumes the next rate is lower enough, soon enough, and cheap enough to switch into. Without that, it is just a comforting phrase. Now we can compare Ryan and David. David bought the house in June 2022. Price, $385,000. Down payment, $77,000. Loan, $308,000. Rate, 5.8%. His principal and interest payment is about $1,807 a month. Over 48 months, he has paid about $86,700 into the mortgage. Around $69,600 went to interest, and about $17,100 paid down principal. After 4 years, his remaining loan balance is roughly $290,800. Now add property taxes and insurance. We will use a simple estimate of about $25,100 over the 4-year period. That is a cost of ownership, so it belongs in the math. But the house also appreciated. At the $428,000 estimate, David's equity is about $137,000. The current value minus the loan balance. That equity has 3 pieces. The original $77,000 down payment is still his, just stored inside the house. About $17,000 came from principal paydown, and roughly $43,000 came from appreciation. Now Ryan. Ryan kept renting. His rent started around $1,850 a month and rose over time. Across 4 years, he paid roughly $97,700 in rent. That money bought housing for those months, but it did not create an asset he can sell. His $77,000 down payment stayed liquid. With a blended savings yield around 4.5%, it grew to roughly $91,800. That is a real gain. It should be counted. But now he wants the same house. The price is no longer $385,000. It is around $408,000. A 20% down payment is about $85,600. His new loan would be about $342,400. At 6.52%, his principal and interest payment would be around $2,169 a month. David is paying about $1,807. Ryan would pay about $2,169 for the same house. That is a difference of about $362 every month. So after 4 years, David is ahead on estimated net position by about $31,000, and he also owns the lower monthly payment going forward. That does not prove buying always wins. It proves this specific weight-required conditions that did not happen. The more useful question is not, who won? It is, what would have needed to happen for the other path to win? Start with home prices. If the house had stayed completely flat for 4 years, Ryan would have been much closer. In some versions of the math, he could be near break-even. But to clearly beat David, the house likely needed to fall, not just rise more slowly. That is a hard bet. It can happen in certain local markets. It can happen if a buyer is patient, inventory rises, and sellers have to cut. But it is not the default assumption you should make without evidence. Now hold the $428,000 price and ask what rate Ryan would need today just to match David's monthly payment. The answer is about 4.85%. That is not a small drop from the mid-6% range. That is a major rate move. And even if it happened, it would only match the payment going forward. It would not refund 4 years of rent or recreate the missed appreciation. This is the honest version of the waiting strategy. You are not merely waiting for a better rate, you are betting on a specific combination: price behavior, rate movement, timing, and execution. If you cannot name the combination, you are not waiting strategically, you are waiting hopefully. So what should a buyer do today? Do not blindly buy because an agent says waiting always loses. That is not analysis. It is sales pressure. Also, do not wait indefinitely because the market feels uncomfortable. That is not analysis either. It is fear wearing a spreadsheet costume. Use a decision sheet. Write down the home price you can buy at today. Write down the monthly payment. Write down your rent cost if you wait. Write down the rate you are waiting for. Write down the home price you expect later. Write down how long you are willing to wait. Then write down the refinance cost and the break-even point. If the wait only works when home prices fall, rates fall fast, and refinance costs stay low, be honest about that. You are making a narrow bet. If the buy now plan only works because you ignore repairs, taxes, insurance, maintenance, and the risk of moving soon, be honest about that too. Buying is not magic. It is leverage attached to a place to live. The right answer depends on local prices, your income stability, how long you plan to stay, your emergency fund, your debt, and the quality of the specific house. But the wrong answer is usually the same: making the decision from a slogan. Ryan did not lose because he was foolish. He lost because a reasonable-sounding strategy quietly required 3 things to go his way at once. David did not win because buying always wins. He won because price appreciation and rate timing moved in his favor after he locked the house. That is the lesson. Every wait is a bet. Every bet has conditions. Write the conditions down before you make the decision. Headlines can help you understand the market. Forecasts can give you context. But the math has to be your math. Your rent, your rate, your market, your time horizon, and your risk. Do not mistake hope for a strategy. Once you run the numbers, you may still buy, or you may still wait. But at least you will know exactly what you are betting on.